Your heart beats faster as you enter a room full of unfamiliar faces. The air hums with unspoken judgments and complex dynamics. This feeling of being socially overwhelmed is something we all know. But what if you could carry a quiet anchor within you, a mental clarity that remains unshaken by the chaos around you? The ancient Stoics called this inner ordering, a state Marcus Aurelius described as a soul free from passions and perfectly ordered. In this video, you will learn a practical set of Stoic principles to build this unshakable inner foundation for yourself. We will explore how a 2,000-year-old philosophy can help you navigate modern social complexities with grace and purpose. What is the one social challenge you wish you could face with more calm? The single most powerful tool for social navigation is knowing what is truly yours to command. This is the core of the Stoic dichotomy of control, the very first step in building your inner order. It is the act of drawing a clear, unwavering line in your mind between what you can influence and what you must release. On one side of that line are your own judgments, your intentions, and your actions. These are your domain, your absolute responsibility. On the other side lies everything else, the vast and ever-changing world of external events, including the actions, words, and opinions of every other person you meet. The philosopher Epictetus opens his manual for life, the Enchiridion, with this exact idea. He writes, "Some things are up to us, and some are not up to us." Our opinions, impulses, desires, and aversions are up to us. Our bodies, our possessions, our reputations, and our public offices are not. When you internalize this division, you create immediate mental clarity. So much of our social unease comes from a misplaced effort, from trying to command the uncontrollable. You cannot force a colleague to like you. You cannot control the tone of an email someone sends you. You cannot dictate the first impression you make on a stranger, but you can always control your response. You can choose to act with integrity, to listen with empathy, and to consider feedback without being defined by it. Imagine receiving some critical thoughts during a performance review. The feedback itself, the words spoken, and the opinion held, is an external event. It is not within your direct control. You can, however, control how you receive it. You can choose to look for useful insight, to respond with appreciation for the chance to learn, and to decide on a thoughtful path forward. This shift in focus from the unchangeable comment to the manageable response is where your power resides. Where in your own social life do you find yourself spending energy trying to manage something that ultimately lies on the other side of that line? When was the last time a casual comment from a colleague ruined your entire afternoon? This common experience highlights our deep-seated habit of internalizing the judgments of others, a habit the Stoics sought to break through a powerful practice of cognitive detachment. This is not about building walls of indifference or becoming emotionally cold. It is a form of mental hygiene, a deliberate act of creating a small, crucial space between an external stimulus, like a critical remark, and your internal reaction. Within that space lies your freedom. You learn to observe an opinion without letting it become a part of you, to see it as simply data about another person's perspective, not a verdict on your own worth. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of the fleeting nature of external validation in his private writings. He wrote about how much time he gains who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does or thinks, but only at what he does himself. He questioned the weight we give to praise, noting that the applause of a crowd is just a fleeting noise, and posthumous recognition is ultimately unimportant and easily forgotten. The goal is to stop outsourcing your inner peace. Consider the sting of social media criticism or the whisper of office conversation. A Stoic approach involves a mental shift, a conscious return to your own inner citadel. You witness the words, you might even consider if there is any useful truth in them, but you refuse to let them dictate your self-worth or emotional state. Your value is not determined by a like, a comment, or a passing remark. It is anchored in your own character and actions, things that are firmly within your control. What is one opinion you are currently holding on to, one external judgment that you have allowed to take up residence in your mind, that a Stoic would gently advise you to release? Think of your mind as a courtroom, and every impression that enters it as a case that needs careful examination before you give your final ruling. This is the heart of the Stoic discipline of assent, the crucial pause that separates a raw feeling from a reasoned judgment. It is the very mechanism of inner ordering, the deliberate interruption of that automatic pilot of reactive emotion that so often leads us into social misunderstandings. Epictetus offered the foundational insight for this practice, teaching that we are unsettled not by things themselves, but by the views which we take of them. An event happens, an impression strikes your mind, and in that split second you have a choice. You can either grant your assent, accepting that initial interpretation as absolute truth, or you can suspend judgment and investigate. Imagine a colleague passes you in the hallway with a terse greeting and avoids eye contact. The immediate, automatic impression might be that they are upset with you, that you have done something wrong. Without the discipline of assent, this impression instantly becomes your reality, sparking worry, defensiveness, or frustration for the rest of the day. But if you pause and examine the case, you open up other possibilities. Perhaps they are simply preoccupied with a pressing deadline. Maybe they received difficult personal news. The objective event, the brief greeting, remains the same. The discipline of assent allows you to choose a different, less distressing judgment about what it means, thereby preserving your inner peace. This practice transforms social friction from a source of constant turmoil into a series of manageable moments. You stop being a slave to every passing impression and start becoming the judge of your own inner world. Can you recall a recent situation where you reacted strongly to an assumption you made, rather than to a verifiable fact? A Stoic does not just endure difficult people, they learn to welcome them as essential teachers. This is the radical practice of Amor Fati, the love of one's fate, applied directly to the social world. It means moving beyond mere tolerance of awkward conversations or challenging personalities, and instead actively embracing them as the very material needed to build your inner strength. Every uncomfortable interaction becomes a rep in the gym for your character, a chance to practice patience, to exercise understanding, or to strengthen your resolve. This philosophy reframes the entire landscape of your social life. Where you once saw obstacles, you now see a curriculum designed specifically for your growth. The Stoic acceptance that Marcus Aurelius wrote of is not passive resignation. It is an active, engaged partnership with reality. He counseled himself to accept everything which happens, even if it seems disagreeable, because it contributes to the greater whole and the unfolding of nature itself. Your difficult boss, that overly critical relative, the stranger who was rude to you in line, these are not errors in the system. They are part of the system, and your task is to find a way to work with them for your own development. Think of walking into a networking event where you feel completely out of place. The standard reaction might be to feel anxiety, to wish you were somewhere else, to see the entire evening as a failure before it even begins. Amor Fati asks you to shift that perspective entirely. You embrace the feeling of being out of place. You accept the awkward silences and the stilted small talk not as personal failures, but as the specific training ground you need to practice your social skills. This discomfort is the weight you lift to build the muscle of your composure. It removes the story of being a victim and replaces it with the story of the active student. What recurring social challenge in your own life, that one person or situation you consistently wish to avoid, might actually be your most valuable teacher if you chose to see it that way? Let's take a step back far above the room and see this moment as a tiny part of a vast human tapestry. This is the Stoic practice known as the view from above, a mental exercise that shrinks social anxiety down to its true size. By consciously zooming out, you shift from being the central character in your own drama to becoming an observer of a much larger story. Your perceived misstep in a conversation, that quiet moment, or the thoughtful glance from across the table loses its overwhelming power when viewed from this cosmic vantage point. Marcus Aurelius was a master of this technique, constantly reminding himself to look at things in their entirety. He would contemplate the whole universe and the mutual relation of all its parts, seeing his own brief life as a mere fragment of time. He wrote about how all the noise and striving of the world is just a tiny whisper in the infinity of existence. When you feel the heat of social pressure rising, this perspective acts as a cooling balm for the ego. Imagine you are in a tense boardroom negotiation. The stakes feel incredibly high, and every word seems to carry the weight of the world. Now, in your mind's eye, pull the camera back. See the room from the ceiling, then from above the building, then from the sky. The people in the room become small figures, each with their own complex lives, their own private concerns, and their own deep hopes. The person you are speaking with is not just an opponent, but a human being who cares about their family, who has known life's transitions, and who seeks happiness just like you. This panoramic view does not make the situation unimportant, but it frames it within a context of shared humanity. It replaces the narrow focus on winning or saving face with a broader understanding of our common journey. The next time you feel that familiar sense of social overwhelm beginning to form, try this simple shift in perspective. Look at the ceiling for a moment and mentally rise above it all. Notice how the intensity of your feelings begins to soften when you see yourself and others as small, yet connected, parts of a magnificent and endless whole. In any room you walk into, your only real task is to act with virtue. This single idea reframes every social interaction from a test of popularity into a test of character. For the Stoics, the four cardinal virtues, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, are not just admirable qualities. They are the sole good, the only possessions of true and lasting value. Everything else we chase in social settings, applause, approval, professional advancement, is classified as a preferred indifferent. It might be nice to have, but it is not fundamentally good because it can be taken away in an instant by forces outside your control. Your good character, however, is yours forever. Seneca put this with stark clarity in his letters, writing that a good character is the only thing that cannot be taken from you. Your reputation can be affected by what others say, your wealth can change, your social standing can shift, but the integrity you build within yourself remains unassailable. This philosophy redefines what it means to win in a complex social environment. Winning is no longer about getting the most nods of agreement or the loudest laugh. It is about leaving the room knowing you acted with wisdom, that you had the courage to speak a difficult truth, that you treated everyone with fairness, and that you exercised self-control over your reactions. Imagine you are in a business meeting where a popular but ethically questionable plan is being celebrated. You have a choice. You can remain silent, gaining the immediate approval of the group, or you can voice your concern, risking isolation and criticism. The conventional view sees the first option as a social success and the second as a challenge. The Stoic view sees the first as a failure of courage and justice, and the second as a profound success of character, regardless of the outcome. Your virtuous stand is the victory itself. This inner scorecard is what provides unshakable confidence. You are no longer tossed about by the shifting winds of other people's opinions because you are committed to a fixed point, your own moral compass. So, take a moment to consider your most important social relationship at this very moment. What would it look like, specifically, to act with justice and fairness toward that person today, setting aside any desire for a particular response from them? A Stoic prepares for a party with the reserve clause, "I will be engaging and kind, fate permitting." This simple phrase holds the key to effort without attachment, a powerful formula for navigating any social plan. The reserve clause is your mental preparation for acting with full intention while simultaneously releasing your grip on the final result. You commit completely to what is yours to control, your preparation, your words, your attitude, and you let go of everything else, the reactions of others, the unexpected interruptions, the overall mood of the event. This practice is the ultimate defense against frustration and disappointment, because it aligns your expectations with reality from the very start. The ancient Stoics illustrated this with the analogy of an archer. A skilled archer does everything within their power to hit the target. They carefully select their arrow, they steady their breath, they take aim with focused attention. Yet, once the arrow leaves the bow, its path is subject to the wind, a sudden movement, or any number of unforeseen factors. The archer's true goal, therefore, is not to hit the target but to have aimed well. Hitting the target is a preferred outcome, but their peace of mind is rooted in the quality of their own action, not in the fickle wind. Now, apply this to planning a difficult conversation you need to have. You prepare your points with clarity and empathy, you choose a suitable time and place, and you set your intention to communicate with honesty and respect. These are your actions, your aim. The other person's response, however, is the wind. They may become defensive, they may not understand, or they may surprise you with gratitude. The reserve clause means you walk into that conversation having done your part flawlessly, and you are mentally prepared for any outcome, thus preserving your inner peace regardless of the result. Your success is measured by the integrity of your effort, not by the specific reaction you receive. Think of an upcoming social commitment that makes you feel some anxiety. It could be a family gathering, a first date, or an important professional presentation. Now, reframe your approach using the reserve clause. Decide on the specific virtue you will embody, perhaps patience or courage, and then add those two liberating words, fate permitting. How does this shift in your mental preparation change the weight you feel about the event itself? How often are you physically in a conversation but mentally already crafting your reply or checking your phone? This division of attention is the enemy of true connection, and the Stoics offered a powerful antidote through the practice of mindful presence. This is more than just good manners. It is a profound exercise in inner ordering, a way to anchor your mind firmly in the current moment with the person before you. Epictetus directed his students to give their whole attention to the matter at hand, the person they are speaking with. He saw this focused engagement not as a social nicety, but as a fundamental duty and a path to clarity. When you listen with the intent to truly understand, rather than with the intent to reply, you are performing an act of deep respect. You are also gathering the most accurate information possible, which dramatically reduces the misunderstandings that so often fuel social friction. Consider a simple dinner conversation. You are asking a friend about their day, but as they begin to speak, your mind is already leaping ahead. formulating a witty anecdote of your own, or mentally reviewing your to-do list. You miss the subtle shift in their tone as they mention a difficulty at work, and you respond with your prepared story, which lands with a dull thud. The connection is lost. Now replay that scene with mindful presence. You ask the same question, but you quiet your internal monologue. You notice their hesitation, the slight change in their voice. You ask a follow-up question, not to steer the conversation, but to understand their experience. The result is a genuine moment of shared understanding, a bridge built between two people. This quality of attention is a gift you give to others, and it is a fortress you build for your own mind against the chaos of distraction. For one conversation today, can you commit to putting away your phone, making eye contact, and listening with the sole purpose of understanding what the other person is communicating, without planning your response until they have finished speaking? A Stoic does not fear a difficult conversation. They have already held it calmly in their mind. This is the essence of Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of challenges, a powerful mental exercise that transforms anxiety into readiness. Far from being a pessimistic rehearsal of everything that could go wrong, it is a strategic preparation against the surprise of adversity. By deliberately visualizing potential social setbacks, you drain them of their power to disrupt your inner peace. Seneca beautifully captured this when he wrote that he who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their force when they arrive. You are not inviting misfortune. You are building a reservoir of calm from which to draw when faced with the unexpected. Imagine you are preparing to give a crucial presentation. Instead of just visualizing a flawless delivery, you take a few moments to mentally walk through a difficult scenario. The projector fails, your slides are inaccessible, a key member of the audience seems disinterested and checks their phone repeatedly. In your mind, you see these events unfold, and you watch yourself responding not with panic but with composure. You calmly acknowledge the technical issue, pivot to speaking from your notes, and maintain engaging eye contact with the rest of the room. This mental rehearsal does not make the problems more likely to happen. It makes your calm reaction more likely. You have already moved through the challenge in a safe space, and your mind now has a prepared script for virtue instead of a reactive script for fear. The next time you feel a flutter of nervousness about an upcoming social event, take 5 minutes for this practice. Choose one specific event, perhaps a family dinner or a meeting with a client. Now mentally walk through the one scenario you most wish to avoid. See it happening in detail, and then watch yourself within that scene, responding with patience, with wisdom, with courage. How does this act of thoughtful inner preparation change your relationship to the fear itself? As Zeno said, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. This simple maxim points to a profound Stoic art, the strategic use of silence. In a world that often mistakes constant talking for confidence and intelligence, choosing to remain quiet can feel counterintuitive. Yet this is not a passive withdrawal. It is an active and powerful choice to observe, to learn, and to conserve your inner resources for the moments that truly demand your voice. Seneca, in his writing on the tranquility of mind, praises the virtues of a quiet life, noting how much turmoil we avoid by simply refusing to engage in every frivolous debate. He saw the disciplined use of speech as a cornerstone of a well-ordered mind, a way to guard your peace against the chaos of unnecessary conflict. Imagine a team meeting where tensions are high. Everyone is speaking over one another, defending their positions, and the conversation is going in circles. In that heated environment, the instinct might be to add your own voice to the noise to prove your value. The Stoic approach, however, would be to consciously choose silence. You sit back and truly listen. You observe the group dynamics, you note the underlying concerns that are not being addressed, and you gather information. Your silence becomes a tool of perception, allowing you to see the whole board while others are focused on a single square. When you do finally speak, your contribution is not a reactive opinion but a considered insight that cuts to the heart of the matter, precisely because you took the time to understand first. This practice transforms you from just another participant into a thoughtful observer and a wiser contributor. Think back over the last week. Can you identify one specific situation, perhaps a casual disagreement or a heated discussion, where saying less and listening more would have allowed you to respond with greater wisdom and preserve your own sense of calm? When someone irritates you, remember they are probably doing what they think is right, just as you are. This humbling thought is the foundation of judging others justly, a Stoic practice that directly protects your inner order from the draining effects of blame and resentment. It is the recognition that human beings are not acting from a place of pure ill will, but from a flawed and limited understanding of what is good. We all operate with a broken compass at times, convinced we are heading north when we are simply lost. The Stoics understood that our judgments about others are often the very source of our own social unease. Marcus Aurelius offered a constant reminder of this in his private journal, writing, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they cannot tell good from evil." This is not a cynical view of humanity, but a compassionate one. He is not saying people are inherently bad. He is saying they are mistaken, confused about what truly matters. This shift in perspective, from seeing someone as intentionally difficult to seeing them as spiritually misguided, completely changes the emotional charge of an interaction. Consider the example of a rude customer service agent. The immediate, automatic judgment is to label them as unprofessional. This judgment fuels your frustration, tightening your chest and shortening your temper. But the Stoic practice asks you to pause that judgment and consider the unseen reality. Perhaps this person is in the middle of a personal struggle. Maybe they have been dealing with difficult situations all day and are emotionally worn out. They are not acting from a place of inherent badness, but from a place of strain, exhaustion, or a flawed belief that this is the only way to get through their shift. Your task is not to excuse poor behavior, but to understand its source, thereby robbing it of the power to disturb your own peace. Your calm, measured response in the face of their frustration then becomes an act of strength, a demonstration of your own inner order. Think of one person who recently annoyed you. Can you reframe your judgment of them not as a bad person, but as a good person who is, in this moment, simply lost? Deep within you stands a quiet, unassailable fortress, a sanctuary where your core values reside, safe from the noise outside. This is your inner citadel, the ultimate destination of Stoic inner ordering. It is not a place to hide from the world, but a stable, fortified center from which you can engage with it wisely and without fear. Marcus Aurelius spoke of this directly, reminding himself to retreat into this little territory of your own mind, a place of simplicity and peace that is always available. This mental stronghold is built not of stone, but of your practiced judgments and unwavering principles. Its walls are the discipline of assent you have been strengthening, and its foundation is your clear understanding of what is truly yours to control. When you step inside, the social chaos, the shifting opinions, and the pressures of the moment simply cannot reach the essence of who you are. Imagine you are about to step onto a stage to give a public speech. The room is full, the lights are bright, and you can feel the weight of hundreds of eyes upon you. The external noise is loud, a mix of your own quickening pulse and the murmur of the crowd. Now you take one conscious breath and retreat into your inner citadel. Inside those walls, the only thing that matters is your intention to communicate with clarity and goodwill. The applause, the potential criticism, the slight tremor in your hands, none of these external events can breach your inner peace. You speak from that center, and your delivery carries a grounded confidence that no amount of performance anxiety can shake. Or consider a more intense scenario, like a challenging line of questioning. The person across from you is forceful, their words are pointed, and they are trying to provoke a reaction. If you are operating from a fragile ego, you will be easily drawn into conflict, mirroring their frustration and losing your composure. But if you are anchored in your inner citadel, you witness their words as data points from outside the walls. You can choose a response based on wisdom and justice, not on reactive emotion. You remain calm not because you are weak, but because you are secure within an unassailable position. So take a moment to close your eyes and visualize your own inner citadel. What does it look like? Is it a serene garden, a simple room, a sunlit library? More importantly, what principles form its unshakable foundation? Is it your commitment to honesty, your capacity for compassion, your unwavering sense of self-respect? Name the values that live there, for they are the true source of your strength in any social storm. The Stoics saw humanity as a single organism, where your well-being is tied to the person across the table. This profound sense of interconnectedness is known as Sympatheia, the idea that the entire cosmos is woven together in a single, living fabric. Every person you meet, from your closest ally to your most difficult critic, is a part of this same whole, sharing in a common destiny. This is not a vague spiritual notion, but a practical worldview that dissolves the artificial barriers of us versus them. When you truly internalize this, social competition begins to feel less like a battle and more like a misunderstanding within a family. Marcus Aurelius constantly returned to this thought to ground himself, writing that what brings benefit to the whole brings benefit to the part. He reminded himself that we are all made for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids, like the rows of upper and lower teeth. To act against one another is contrary to nature, and it is acting against one another to be resentful and to turn away. Consider the friction of office dynamics. It is easy to see a coworker who champions a different project as a rival for resources or recognition. You are on different teams with competing goals. But the lens of Sympatheia asks you to pull back and see the larger organism. You are both parts of the same company, the same shared enterprise, whose ultimate health depends on the effective function of all its parts. Their success in their role does not diminish your own. It actually contributes to the stability and vitality of the entire system from which you both draw your livelihood. Your colleague is not your opponent, they are the other hand, and you cannot clap with only one. This perspective transforms how you approach disagreement. A conflict is no longer a fight to be won, but a coordination to be solved, a chance to find a rhythm that serves the larger body you both belong to. Think of a current social tension in your own life, perhaps with a neighbor or a family member. For a moment, set aside the idea of separate interests. What would it look like to view this situation not as a battle between two isolated individuals, but as a temporary miscommunication between two essential parts of a single, interconnected whole? Stoicism is not a philosophy of grim endurance. It is a practice of not taking yourself or the minor friction of social life too seriously. The ancient Stoics understood that a sense of proportion and even lightness was essential for a well-ordered mind. They knew that humor, when used without malice, is a powerful shield against the trivial irritations that can so easily disrupt our peace. This is not about forced laughter or mockery, but about a gentle, resilient perspective that refuses to grant small things the power to cause great disturbance. Seneca, who wrote extensively on the serenity of the soul, also acknowledged that a wise person knows how to relax and enjoy moments of play. He saw no contradiction between profound seriousness and a light heart, recognizing both as facets of a mature and balanced character. Imagine you are in a meeting and someone makes a slightly dismissive comment about an idea you just shared. The automatic, weighty response might be to feel defensive, to internalize the slight, and to let it cast a shadow over the rest of your day. But a Stoic approach infused with lightness offers another path. You could simply smile and offer a light-hearted reply that acknowledges the comment without accepting its sting, something like, "Well, I suppose not every idea can be a masterpiece. Thank you for keeping me humble." This does not mean you agree with the criticism. It means you have demonstrated, both to yourself and to the room, that the comment has not reached your inner citadel. You have used humor to deflect the blow, showing that your core value remains untouched and your perspective remains broad. This kind of response, especially when it is self-deprecating, can also put others at ease, dissolving tension and fostering a more collaborative atmosphere. It signals that you are secure enough in your own worth not to need constant validation. Think back to a recent social situation that felt awkward or difficult for you. Can you identify a moment where a gentle, good-natured remark, perhaps even one you directed at yourself, could have released the pressure and allowed for a more genuine connection to form? Before sleep, a Stoic conducts a quiet audit of the day's social theater. This is the practice of the evening review, a dedicated time to look back over your interactions with a calm and honest eye. It is not about self-criticism or replaying awkward moments with regret. It is your personal feedback loop for inner ordering, a structured way to transform every conversation, every encounter, into raw material for your growth. The goal is simple: to assess where you acted in alignment with your virtues and where you might improve tomorrow. Seneca wrote extensively about this habit in his letters, describing how he would question himself each night. He asked, "What habit have you improved today? What challenge have you met? In what way are you better?" His focus was on progress, not perfection. Your own review can follow a similar path, turning the lens specifically on your social conduct. Start with a single conversation from your day. Mentally walk through it and ask yourself a few guiding questions. Did I listen with my full attention, or was my mind elsewhere? Did I have the courage to speak a necessary truth, or did I remain silent for comfort? Did I act with fairness and justice toward the other person, treating them as a part of the same human community? And perhaps most importantly, where did I feel a sudden reaction, a trigger of annoyance or defensiveness, and what does that reveal about an area where my inner order is still being built? This is not an exercise in guilt, it is an act of clarity. By identifying the specific moment you felt your peace disrupted, you pinpoint exactly where to apply your Stoic principles tomorrow. That flicker of irritation when a colleague interrupted you becomes tomorrow's training ground for patience. The hesitation to voice a contrary opinion becomes tomorrow's opportunity for courage. Tonight, before you sleep, set aside just 5 minutes. Find a quiet space and review your day through this Stoic lens. Look only at your own actions and judgments, never at the actions of others. Where did you do well? Where could your virtue have been stronger? This nightly ritual closes the loop, ensuring that every day, no matter how socially complex, contributes directly to the unshakable foundation you are building within. Much social anxiety comes from a deep inner need to feel important, valued, or admired. This inner voice often suggests that you should be the most engaging person in the conversation, the most respected individual in the room, or the one who receives the most positive attention. Stoic inner ordering is about noticing this voice without identifying with it, seeing it as a part of you that is always seeking more. a part that can never truly be filled, and whose expectations can leave you feeling exposed to the views of others. Your role is not to eliminate this aspect of yourself, but to kindly watch its urges and decide not to let them steer your actions. The philosopher Epictetus showed the way to true freedom when he taught that liberty is achieved not by satisfying your wants, but by letting go of them. When you no longer place too much weight on what others think, you regain a vast inner space. You stop being pulled in different directions by each word of praise or critique. Imagine walking into a high school reunion. The ego often has a very clear plan for such an occasion. It insists that you need to show your life has turned out well, that you must seem more successful or content than your former classmates. This internal demand can transform a friendly gathering into a tense situation of constant comparison. Inner ordering helps you gently put that plan down. You intentionally move your attention from demonstrating your worth to building real connections. You listen with interest to others and ask meaningful questions about their experiences. You share your own journey with honesty, not with an aim to win approval. You take part in the event, but you are not controlled by it because your inner calm is not tied to the outcome. Your peace does not rely on being the center of attention. What is one common longing may be a wish for recognition or a concern about being unnoticed that you observe, most often influencing how you act when you are with others. An insult only has power when you agree to be wounded by it. This core Stoic idea places the ownership of your emotional state squarely back into your own hands. The sting you feel is not in the words themselves, but in your private judgment that those words matter, that they define some part of your worth. The process of inner ordering gives you a clear, three-step framework to navigate this moment without surrendering your peace. First, you recognize the remark for what it is, an external event, a set of syllables in the air that holds no inherent power. Second, you assess its content with detached curiosity, asking if there is any useful truth in it, separating the information from the delivery. Third, and most importantly, you consciously choose a response rooted in virtue rather than a raw, unthinking reaction. The ancient philosopher Socrates was a master of this practice. He was famously compared to a steadfast figure that remains unmoved by the words and actions of others, not out of weakness, but from a profound understanding that another person's poor behavior could not touch his inner self. Marcus Aurelius reinforced this, writing that you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Imagine a coworker makes a snide remark about a mistake in your recent report during a team meeting. The immediate, automatic impression is one of embarrassment and frustration. Your heart rate jumps, and you feel a flush of heat. The unexamined reaction is to fire back with a sharp retort or to carry the feeling with you for the rest of the day. But the Stoic method interrupts this cascade. Internally, you pause, you note the event, a critical comment was made. You then assess it without the emotional charge. Does the report contain an error? If it does, the comment, however poorly delivered, contains information you can use to improve your work. If it does not, then the comment is merely noise, a reflection of the other person's state of mind, not a verdict on your competence. Your chosen response can now be one of calm reason. You might say, "Thank you for pointing that out. I will review the section to ensure its accuracy." This neutral, professional reply demonstrates composure, halts the cycle of conflict, and keeps your inner self secure. Your power was not in controlling their words, but in mastering your judgment and your reply. Think of one common remark or critical comment you sometimes face in your own life. What would it look like to pause, to see the words as mere external sounds, and to choose a single thoughtful action as your reply, thereby reclaiming your inner space? Apatheia is the clear-headed calm that lets you see a social situation as it is, not as your fears paint it. This Stoic ideal is often mistaken for a cold, unfeeling apathy, an emotional emptiness toward the world. Nothing could be further from the truth. Apatheia is not the absence of all feeling. It is the freedom from the irrational, overwhelming passions that hijack your reason and distort your perception. Think of it as the difference between a calm, deep lake that clearly reflects the sky and a turbulent, muddy pond stirred by a storm. The goal is to be the clear lake, able to receive and reflect reality without being churned into chaos by every wind. The Stoics carefully distinguished between the good feelings, the Eupatheiae, like a reasoned sense of joy or a measured wish for connection, and the destructive passions, the Path, which are judgments gone awry. These are the storms of anxiety, the wildfires of anger, the chilling grip of envy that so often arise in group settings. Seneca described these unhealthy passions as opinions and judgments of a mind that has been twisted from its proper condition. They are not true emotions, but faulty interpretations that assign far too much weight to external events. Imagine you are in a team meeting and a colleague unexpectedly delivers a sharp, public critique of your project. The initial automatic surge of heat, the tightening in your chest, that is the passion of anger or perhaps shame beginning to form. It is a judgment screaming that this is a terrible, unfair attack that must be defended against at all costs. In that moment, apatheia is the mental space you create to question that initial, deafening verdict. It allows you to pause, to breathe, and to see the critique not as a world-ending catastrophe, but as a collection of words and ideas. From that place of calm, you can assess the feedback logically. Is there a useful point buried in the harsh delivery? Is this person under pressure themselves? Your response can then be measured and strategic, rather than a raw, emotional counterattack that would only escalate the conflict and fracture the team's dynamic. You respond to the information, not to the storm. What is the one overwhelming passion, perhaps a flare of social anxiety or a spark of quick jealousy, that most often clouds your judgment and disrupts your inner order when you are with others? You are not a single self, but a collection of roles. Your inner order comes from understanding and fulfilling the duties unique to each one. This is the heart of Stoic role ethics, a framework that transforms social complexity into a clear and manageable script for action. Instead of asking yourself what you should do in a given moment, you simply ask what your role requires. Are you acting as a parent, a colleague, a friend, or a citizen? Each of these comes with its own set of inherent responsibilities, and focusing on these duties cuts through the noise of personal preference and social anxiety. The Stoic thinker Hierocles illustrated our interconnectedness with his famous circles of concern. He pictured the self at the center, surrounded by concentric circles representing family, then local community, then one's country, and finally all of humanity. Our ethical task, he proposed, is to continually draw these circles inward, to treat those in the outer rings with the same care and consideration we naturally extend to those closest to us. Marcus Aurelius constantly grounded himself in this practice, opening his meditations by cataloging the duties he learned from the various people in his life, and then reminding himself throughout his journal to perform the duties of his own station as emperor with justice and integrity. Imagine you are caught in a difficult family disagreement. Emotions are running high, old grievances are surfacing, and the conversation feels like a tangled knot. The ambiguity of the situation is mentally exhausting. Role ethics offers a direct path through this. You consciously step back and ask, what is the duty of a compassionate family member in this moment? Your role is not to win the argument, to prove a point, or to assign blame. Your duty is to listen with patience, to speak with kindness, and to act in a way that preserves the long-term health of the relationship. This clarity immediately simplifies your choices. You are no longer reacting to every provocation. You are following a script of virtue written specifically for your role as a son, a daughter, a sibling, or a parent. This focus on duty over desire frees you from the draining weight of decision fatigue because the right action is no longer a mystery. It is encoded in the relationship itself. Take a quiet moment to consider your own social landscape. What are your 3 most important roles right now, and what is the single most essential duty attached to each one? A Stoic occasionally chooses the harder social path to strengthen their capacity for the unavoidable ones. This is the principle of voluntary discomfort, a form of training for the soul that builds a profound immunity to the minor frictions of group life. Think of it as a psychological vaccine where you willingly expose yourself to a tiny, manageable dose of social challenge to build resilience against the larger fear of awkwardness or disconnection. This practice was deeply influenced by the Cynic philosophers, who lived with radical simplicity and was later integrated into Stoicism as a practical exercise. The teacher Musonius Rufus explicitly advocated for this, arguing that through enduring small, chosen hardships, we become strong and capable against the difficulties that come to us uninvited. He saw comfort as a potential trap, a softness that could leave us unprepared when life inevitably presented its challenges. You are not seeking out discomfort for its own sake, but engaging in a deliberate rehearsal for reality. Consider the simple act of intentionally starting a conversation with a stranger in a coffee shop. The goal is not to make a new best friend, but to practice the very act of initiating connection, to become comfortable with the possibility of a brief, polite exchange that may not lead to more. Or imagine attending a gathering and giving yourself the task of sitting in quiet observation for a set period, resisting the urge to fill the space with chatter. In that self-imposed silence, you practice being at peace with yourself without the constant need for external validation through interaction. You are building the muscle of self-containment. This week, what one small, voluntary social step can you undertake to fortify your inner calm? It could be as simple as asking a clarifying question in a large meeting where you would normally stay silent, offering a sincere compliment to someone you do not know well, or being the first to admit you do not understand something in a group setting. This single, conscious act of choosing the slightly more difficult path is a direct investment in your unshakable social poise. Before you speak, before you react, take one conscious breath. In that space, your power resides. This is the Stoic Pause, the single most practical habit you can cultivate for navigating complex social environments. It is the physical manifestation of the discipline of assent, the moment where theoretical inner ordering becomes a lived reality. In that brief silence, you reclaim your freedom from the tyranny of automatic impulse. The philosopher Epictetus taught that we have the power to not be carried away by the initial appearance of a thing. The pause is how you exercise that power. It is the gap between the spark of a feeling and the fire of a reaction, and within it you can choose to respond with virtue instead of replying with raw emotion. Consider receiving surprising and perhaps disappointing news during a team meeting. The information lands and your body instantly tightens. The automatic impression screams that this is a challenge, and the immediate urge might be to voice a protest, to question the messenger, or to show visible discouragement. This is the critical juncture. Instead of following that first impulse, you insert the Stoic pause. You feel your feet on the floor, you take that one deliberate breath, and you create a container for the initial wave of feeling. This simple act of hesitation allows your reasoning faculty to engage. You can now assess the news not as a disaster, but as a new piece of information to be understood. From that centered place, your response can be measured and constructive. You might ask a clarifying question to better understand the reasons behind the decision, or you might acknowledge the situation while affirming the team's capacity to adapt. The event itself did not change, but your relationship to it was transformed by a single breath. This practice turns every social interaction into a potential training ground. The colleague who interrupts you, the friend who changes plans, the unexpected question that puts you on the spot, each one is an invitation to practice the pause. It is in these minor, everyday moments that you build the neural pathways for composure, so that when a truly significant challenge arises, your inner order is already a well-established habit. Your mission is to make this tangible. In your very next social gathering, whether it is a family dinner or a work function, commit to practicing the Stoic pause at least 3 times. The first time, use it when you feel the urge to interrupt someone. The second, employ it when you receive a compliment, allowing yourself to receive it fully without deflecting. The third, invoke it the moment you feel a flicker of irritation or defensiveness. Notice how that small, intentional space changes the entire quality of your interaction, and more importantly, the quality of your own inner world. What is your opinion worth if you only express it when it is safe? True conviction is tested not in solitude, but in the friction of a crowd. Stoic inner ordering provides the foundation for this exact form of courage, the strength to maintain your individual judgment when the current of groupthink pulls strongly in another direction. This is not about being contrarian for its own sake, but about being loyal to what reason and virtue reveal as true, even at a personal cost. The Stoics held that social harmony, while preferred, is not the ultimate good if its price is the sacrifice of your integrity. The virtue of courage in this context is the willingness to speak a necessary truth, understanding that the disapproval of the group is a lighter burden than the self-betrayal of your own silence. The philosopher Epictetus, who championed the power of individual reason, offered a guiding light for such moments. He taught, "Do not seek to have everything that happens happen as you wish, but wish for everything to happen as it actually does happen, and your life will flow well." This is the essence of aligning with reality, not with popular opinion. It is the courage to see things as they are and to speak from that clarity, even if you must walk alone. Consider a modern example within a corporate setting where a team is rushing to launch a new product. Excitement is high, and the collective momentum is pushing for a quick release. You, however, have uncovered a significant ethical concern or a potential safety issue that others are choosing to overlook. The pressure to remain silent, to be a team player, and not disrupt the schedule is immense. Yet your inner order, built on the Stoic virtues of wisdom and justice, compels you to voice your concern. You prepare your case with clarity, present it with respect, and accept that the outcome is not within your control. Your victory is not in whether they listen, but in having upheld your duty to truth and to the well-being of those the product will serve. This act preserves your inner citadel, regardless of the external consequences. Think back to a recent group discussion where you felt the pull to conform. Where did you choose to remain silent when a different part of you knew a truthful, though perhaps difficult, statement needed to be made? What would that single sentence of courageous honesty have sounded like? Remember, this difficult meeting, this joyful party, it is already passing into memory. Even as you experience it, the moment is slipping into the past, becoming a story you will one day tell. This is the Stoic meditation on impermanence, applied directly to the social world. It is a perspective that gently loosens the tight grip of pressure we so often feel, allowing us to engage with a lighter heart and a clearer mind. Marcus Aurelius returned to this truth constantly, observing how all things are born of change, how existence is like a river without end, where all that is seen is swiftly carried away. That tense conversation, that room full of strangers, that brilliant success at a networking event, each is a single, fleeting leaf floating on that vast, flowing river. When you internalize this, you stop asking any single social situation to bear the weight of your entire identity or future. You are freed to participate fully, not because the outcome is everything, but because it is one brief note in the long song of your life. Consider the nervous anticipation before a first date or a crucial job interview. The mind can magnify these events into ultimate, defining moments, as if your entire happiness depends on their success. But viewed through the lens of impermanence, you see them for what they are, singular and temporary interactions. This date is one conversation among thousands you will have this year. This interview is one meeting in a long career. This does not make them unimportant, but it frames them within a realistic scale, draining the paralyzing intensity from the experience. You can enter that room with a calm understanding that in 1 hour it will be over, and in 1 year its details will likely be a distant memory. Take a current social worry, one that feels heavy and significant in your life right now. Now, mentally fast forward 1 year into the future. Look back at this moment from that distant point. How much of its urgent weight remains? How much of the anxiety, the fear of judgment, the sting of a possible awkward moment still holds its power over you? The practice of remembering impermanence is not about dismissing life's experiences, but about holding them with an open hand, appreciating their beauty and their challenge without being crushed by their temporary nature. An internal boundary is a rule you set for your own conduct, making you less reactive to the actions of others. This is the quiet, unbreakable promise you make to yourself about how you will behave, no matter what happens around you. It is not an attempt to control what another person does, but a deep commitment to self-governance. You decide in advance what lines you will not cross, what principles you will hold dear, and in doing so, you build a foundation of character that no outside event can shake. The Stoics called this living in accordance with your nature, which for a thoughtful person means acting with reason and virtue as your guides. Your internal boundary is the everyday expression of this ideal. You might set a boundary that says, "I will not respond to rumors," or "I will not compromise my honesty for approval," or "I will not let another person's frustration become my own." These are not rules for the world, they are rules for you, and they create a deep inner steadiness. Think about the demands of a workplace where taking shortcuts is quietly accepted to meet a goal. The outside pressure to fit in, to be part of the group, can feel very strong. Without a clear internal boundary, you might find yourself going along with something that does not align with what you believe, and that inner tension can wear away your calm. But if you have already decided, as a matter of principle, that you will not take part in misleading actions, the way forward becomes clear. You can calmly and respectfully choose not to join in, not as an act of defiance toward others, but as an act of faithfulness to yourself. Your internal boundary lets you move through the situation with integrity, without being troubled by the possible disappointment of those around you. It turns a challenging moment into a simple affirmation of your own resolve. What is one clear internal boundary, one non-negotiable rule for your own behavior that you can set and keep in your own social life starting today? The Stoic sees the lead of social friction as the raw material for forging the gold of character. This is a profound alchemical shift in perspective, where the very things we instinctively avoid become the essential ingredients for our growth. Without these challenges, our virtues remain abstract ideas, untested theories in the quiet of our own minds. It is only when we are pressed, when our patience is stretched thin or our courage is called upon, that these qualities are tempered into something real and unshakable. This is the gift of obstacles, the hidden curriculum written into every difficult interaction. Marcus Aurelius, who faced endless political intrigue and personal challenges, framed this truth with elegant simplicity. He wrote, "The obstacle in the path becomes the path. The obstruction is not a detour from your journey toward inner order, it is the journey itself. That difficult person is not blocking your way, they are showing you the way, revealing the exact muscles of character you need to strengthen." Think of a demanding boss whose constant critiques feel like a personal challenge. The standard reaction is to see them as a problem to be endured or a barrier to your peace. But through the Stoic lens, this person is not a problem, they are your gym. Their demands are the weights you lift to build the muscle of patience. Their criticism is the resistance training for your objectivity, teaching you to sift feedback from emotion. Your daily interaction with them is not a battle to be won, but a daily workout for your resilience. Similarly, a critical relative does not need to ruin family gatherings. They become your practice ground for forgiveness and understanding, a chance to exercise the virtue of seeing their behavior as a form of confusion rather than ill intent. Your peace is no longer dependent on their change, but is built through your own consistent, thoughtful response. So, bring to mind one person you find challenging in your own life. Now make a quiet list. What specific virtues does this person, simply by being who they are, give you the opportunity to practice? Is it patience, tolerance, courage, or perhaps the strength to set a gentle boundary? Naming these virtues transforms the relationship from a source of stress into a structured training program for your inner growth. Instead of cataloging the flaws of those around you, a Stoic practices finding the gift in each interaction. This deliberate shift from judgment to gratitude is not about ignoring real issues, but about actively rewiring your perception to reduce the inner friction of resentment. When you search for what you can appreciate, even in a difficult dynamic, you reclaim control over your emotional landscape. You transform the social world from a source of irritation into a field of learning. Seneca wrote extensively about this mental habit in his letters, arguing that we should cultivate this thankful state of mind toward the universe itself and toward every person who crosses our path. He saw gratitude as a fundamental component of a well-ordered life, a direct antidote to the poison of complaint. Marcus Aurelius began his days with a similar ritual, consciously bringing to mind the positive qualities of the people he was about to encounter, preparing his mind to meet them with appreciation rather than apprehension. Take the example of a team member whose persistence you find endlessly challenging. The common response is to focus on their inflexibility, to mentally list their shortcomings, and to allow that internal narrative to sour your collaboration. The Stoic practice asks you to pause that narrative and search for the hidden lesson. Perhaps their steadfastness teaches you the value of patience, training you to communicate with greater clarity and calm. Maybe their attention to detail, even when it feels excessive, is a mirror showing you areas where your own work could be more thorough. Your gratitude is not for their difficult behavior, but for the opportunity their behavior provides for your own growth. This reframing does not excuse poor conduct, but it completely changes your internal weather, allowing you to engage from a place of strength rather than reactivity. Your assignment is to choose one person in your life you typically find challenging. Before you interact with them next, take a single moment to mentally express a specific gratitude for them. What quality, however buried, do they possess that you can learn from? This small, silent act of thankfulness is a practical step toward building an unshakable inner order. The ultimate aim of Stoic inner ordering is not to escape the world, but to engage with it from a place of unshakable strength. This entire journey has been about constructing an internal foundation so solid that the busyness of social life can flow around it without disturbing your calm. You are not building a wall to hide behind, you are building a citadel to live from. Think of the core practices as your daily architectural tools. The dichotomy of control is your level, constantly helping you distinguish what is yours to build from what you must let be. The evening review is your blueprint, allowing you to assess the day's work and plan for a stronger tomorrow. Each time you practice the pause before you speak, you lay another stone in your fortress of calm. This is the practical toolkit for a life of social grace. The freedom this brings was perfectly captured by Epictetus when he taught, "No man is free who is not master of himself." That self-mastery is the very essence of your inner order. It is the liberation from being pulled by every opinion, every quiet moment, or every small misunderstanding. You are the architect of your own inner world, and with that role comes the profound ability to walk into any room, face any conversation, and navigate any complexity with a grounded confidence that comes from within. This is your path forward. If you are ready to continue building this unshakable foundation, subscribe for more practical Stoic wisdom, and we would love to hear from you in the comments. Which of these practices are you starting with to become the architect of your own peace?